Breaking news: China drops tariffs, Africa cheers while the US worries. On a crisp morning in Nairobi, headlines flash across televisions: China drops tariffs, Africa cheers while the US worries. Social media, just buzzes. Traders in Nigeria, coffee growers in Ethiopia, and miners in Zambia all scramble for their phones. The news is simple but seismic. China will drop tariffs on most African imports, just as America doubles down on trade barriers. The mood is, honestly, electric. In Africa's bustling ports, dock workers picture more ships loaded for China. Meanwhile, American factories fret. US officials in Washington are caught off guard. This is economic warfare, one analyst fumes on CNN. Others wonder if a new era has begun. For many, it's more than just tariffs. It's about choosing sides in a global contest. Is Africa the new prize? And what does this mean for jobs, growth, and power across 3 continents? As the story develops, questions swirl. Will China's open doors help Africa rise, or lead to new problems? And can the United States adapt, or will it fall behind as Africa moves eastward? China's zero-tariff policy seems simple. For most goods coming from African countries, China now charges almost no import taxes. This means coffee beans from Uganda, cocoa from Ghana, and copper from the Democratic Republic of Congo can enter China's booming market at lower prices. Chinese consumers get cheaper goods, and African exporters get bigger profits. By comparison, America's approach is much tougher. Over the past decade, the US has used tariffs as weapons, raising costs for goods from rival countries, including China. Some African products do get special treatment, like under AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act. But AGOA is complicated, with strict rules and quotas. It can be taken away if countries break US expectations. This trade war style has made American markets less certain for Africans. In contrast, China's new policy feels straightforward and welcoming. Zero tariffs means zero headaches, says a Kenyan trade official. Many African leaders see China's approach as more predictable and less political. Yet some worry that China's open-door policy comes with strings attached. Does zero tariffs mean more freedom for Africa, or new forms of dependence? With tariffs gone, African exports to China are booming. In 2024 alone, trade between Africa and China jumped by more than 20%. Countries like Angola and South Africa saw record sales of oil and minerals. Farmers in Kenya and Ethiopia sent more tea and coffee than ever before. Even smaller economies such as Rwanda found new buyers for their specialty products. The impact is visible everywhere. In Ghana's ports, warehouses fill with cocoa beans. Now we ship twice as much to China as before, beams a local exporter. Similar stories echo from Dakar to Dar es Salaam. More jobs, more money, and more hope fill the air. This export surge helps African economies grow. More foreign money means governments can invest in roads, schools, and hospitals. Small business owners say they finally have a chance to compete with bigger nations. But there are risks too. Some warn that if China's demand drops, prices could collapse. And if African countries only export raw materials, they may miss out on the bigger profits from processing and manufacturing. Experts are divided. Some, like Professor John Mwangi at the University of Nairobi, say China is winning Africa with trade, not aid. He points to rising Chinese investment and the flow of African goods eastward. America is losing influence, step by step, he adds. Others are not so sure. Africa is not a chessboard, argues U.S. policy advisor Linda Green. She says American programs still support health, education, and democracy in Africa. America's market is big and stable, even if its rules are tough. International think tanks see a power shift. The Brookings Institution recently noted that over 60% of Africa's trade is now with China or Chinese-led groups. China is setting the agenda, their report warns. At the same time, African leaders are careful to keep both partners close, playing one off the other for better deals. Even so, the gap is growing. As China's zero tariffs take effect, more African voices see Asia as the market of the future, while America appears stuck in the past. So, what exactly does Africa send to China and the United States? The answer, honestly, reveals a lot about who really benefits. China buys massive amounts of raw materials: oil from Angola, copper from Zambia, cobalt from Congo. These are, the building blocks for China's factories and tech industries. China also imports agricultural goods like sesame seeds, avocados, and tea. By contrast, America mostly buys finished products, textiles from Lesotho, apparel from Madagascar, or cut flowers from Kenya. US rules are strict about standards, labor, and quotas. Many African countries struggle to meet them, so only a few actually benefit from the US market. China's open market is a game changer for small farmers and miners. A sesame grower in Burkina Faso says, "Now I sell straight to China. I get a better price, and my village is thriving." For many, China's demand for raw goods means new roads, jobs, and hope. Still, critics say Africa is missing a chance to build its own industries. If African exports stay limited to raw materials, the continent risks repeating old mistakes. Trade, is more than just buying and selling. China's influence in Africa also comes from these massive investments. From Ethiopia's new electric railway to Nigeria's deep-sea ports, Chinese companies are building the roads, bridges, and power stations that actually make trade possible. Of course, these projects come with big loans. China often funds infrastructure in exchange for future exports. For example, a new highway in Kenya was built by a Chinese firm, using funds borrowed from Chinese banks. In return, Kenya agreed to sell more tea and flowers to China. Supporters say this is a win-win. Africa gets the infrastructure it badly needs, while China secures a steady supply of resources. Without these new roads, our cocoa never would have reached China, says a Ghanaian exporter. But, others worry about the risks. If exports drop, countries may struggle to repay their debts. And sometimes, Chinese companies bring their own workers, which can limit jobs for locals. Not everyone is celebrating China's zero tariffs. Critics warn that Africa could become too dependent on one big buyer. If China's economy slows, African countries could be left holding the bag. There's also the debt problem. Many nations owe billions to Chinese banks for infrastructure projects. Some say China's win-win slogan hides hard realities. It's a new scramble for Africa, warns Nigerian economist Bola Akintunde. If we only export raw materials, we stay poor while others get rich. American officials, meanwhile, accuse China of debt-trap diplomacy. Yet, the US is not blameless. Critics argue that America's trade rules often shut out African goods or encourage resource exploitation under tough quotas. Logistics remain a headache too. Poor roads and ports, customs delays, and sudden policy shifts make trade risky and expensive. Still, many African leaders say the choice is not between China and America, but about finding their own path. The real test is whether Africa can use these new opportunities to build lasting prosperity. This moment isn't the first time Africa has been caught between global powers. Back in the 19th century, European empires raced to control African trade and resources. Later, during the Cold War, the US and Soviet Union fought for influence in Africa through aid and alliances. There are definitely echoes of past mistakes. In the early 1900s, America tried to open China's markets with its open-door policy. Today, China is doing something similar in Africa, but with more success, thanks to rapid investment and fewer political strings. Historians warn that the old model, shipping out raw materials and importing finished goods, keeps Africa dependent. But, some things are changing. African governments are pushing for more processing and local industry. New trade deals within Africa, like the African Continental Free Trade Area, aim to keep more wealth on the continent. Still, the struggle continues. The lessons of history suggest that the winner isn't always the biggest power, but the country that builds real, lasting partnerships. So, who wins in the end? For now, Africa's partnership with China brings new money, markets, and options. China wins steady access to raw materials and political goodwill. America risks losing its old influence unless it changes its approach. But honestly, the picture is complicated. Some African countries are making real progress, using Chinese investment to build factories, not just ship out raw goods. Others risk falling into old traps of dependency and debt. Competition is heating up, with India, Turkey, and Europe all chasing Africa's markets. No one really knows if Africa's zero-tariff moment will lead to lasting growth or just new problems. Will China and America find ways to cooperate, or will Africa be forced to choose sides? The answer may depend on how African leaders use this moment, turning opportunity into real independence. The world is watching. Africa stands at a crossroads. Will these new trade deals bring true prosperity, or more of the same old story? Only time will tell.